There are two ways in which any government can proceed. One is a way based on what you and I would call a free society, which is enshrined right at the heart of the American Constitution. The other one is a way which allows only one view, both of economics and politics, in which almost everything is either owned or controlled by the state, including the media, including the ideas, including freedom of discussion and everything. There is no freedom of discussion. Now, between those two ways, the free society and the totally controlled society, there are, of course, variations. I think what we've learned in Britain is that we've gradually, over the last certainly 12 or 13 years, with perhaps a little interruption, gone slowly further and further away from the free society towards something else. At the same time, we've found, I don't find it strange, but some other people do, that we have stopped creating wealth. We've had a large number of increasing restrictions. And you've been finding two things. First, that we are more and more concentrating on redistributing the wealth we've got, rather than creating any more. To create more, you need a slightly freer society, and you need an incentive society. Naturally, when I see that happening, I look with very great alarm to societies which have gone even further left. That is, they've tried to redistribute even more and haven't had the incentives for people working hard on their own account, doing well for their families, and often then being able to create jobs for others. They've produced a much more prosperous society than we have.
We fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing ground.
Thank you for joining us. You are listening to A Radio, and this is The Morning Moment. We're on weekdays, 11:45 Eastern. Follow us on Spreaker.com and click on the like button. This piece is about, in my opinion, a left-wing journalist who has seen the light after more than 2 years, working for an American news organisation who has bashed the President of the United States virtually every day. One of the big three. Also a person who is supposedly well respected, an anchor on the prestigious 60 Minutes, who is now an ex-member of CBS News. She has left, I used a gender pronoun there. I will have to be handcuffed, frog-marched off, and be sent to a re-education camp in northern socialism, known locally as Quebec. Sorry, I digressed. This person, who now wants to talk about how she has seen the error of her ways. I'm going to play a clip for you from Fox News, April 2nd, Fox and Friends to be precise. But I think there is a very big but here. Just like my grandmother said to me nearly 50 years ago, once a socialist. Join the dots. Plus, she does come from the UK. And the UK School of Journalism. Oh, she tries to mask her English accent, but I know firsthand there are very few right-leaning journalists in the UK. Very few. Just as there are very few in the US. So when I hear this, I get very suspicious indeed. Do you believe her? Or is she an undercover journalist thinking she can get inside and get a scoop? Trying some investigative journalism, she would call it. Oops, I made 2 pronoun gender errors there. Sorry, I'm really slipping today. Trying to uncover, as we all know, that there isn't anything to uncover. Here's the piece. Links on my site.
The media struggling with the fact that the Mueller probe found no Russian collusion.
The president says the report exonerates him totally, and he's been saying that for a week.
And you've got to wonder just how much information will be blacked out.
So what are they blaming for their coverage now? The election results, and Laura-Logan is here to react. Coming up next.
Impeachment.
We are in high crimes and misdemeanor, and we are in impeachment territory.
Right. We are looking at the possibility that the President of the United States and those around him during an election campaign colluded with a hostile foreign power.
It's so obvious that they were eager to collude with Russia. Now we're seeing the evidence that there was a conspiracy to cover up.
He may be the first president in quite some time to face the real prospect of jail time. And that's the tone and tenor over the last 2 years as you watch the coverage of the president almost from the day he was elected. He's illegitimate, he cheated, and now he teamed with Russia. And now it turns out that might not be the case as we wait for the 300 pages. In fact, the 4 pages told us it didn't. Laura-Logan's been watching this, analyzing this, and came to our couch a short time ago to talk about it and rejoined us now, former CBS correspondent and exceptional award-winning journalist. Laura, welcome back.
Thank you very much. How are you?
Great. Are you surprised we're at this point still in denial after the summary? Let's go after the guy that actually wrote the summary rather than look at the conclusions he came up with off the Mueller report.
You know, if this were just about human beings and our frailties, then I guess I would be disappointed, right? But to me, Brian, this is just indicative of the propaganda, the organized propaganda that's behind all of this. It seems to me that so many journalists don't even really know that they're pushing a narrative that was pushed onto them, and they did it. A lot of them, it happened so successfully because they didn't bother to do their jobs and they didn't bother to do the most basic journalism. And what you're seeing now with with more propaganda being pushed and people not standing up and owning their mistakes, to me, that's a sign that this really is an organized propaganda effort.
Well, I tell you what, Laura, one member of the mainstream media, Rolling Stone correspondent Matt Taibbi, said in the last couple of weeks, he said that the Russia collusion spectacle was essentially the worst media fail in American journalism history. He was sitting down with Sean Illing from Vox, and they were talking about, you know, where did this all come from? And as it turns out, it came from the fact that so many people were so upset that Donald Trump became president, they could not accept it, so they blamed it all on cheating.
So Sean, the Vox reporter, he writes, a lot of people simply did not want to believe that Trump was a legitimate president, that someone this vulgar and this dishonest could win a presidential election. And I think that disbelief and the emotional devastation of his election colored a lot of our judgments. Then Matt Taibbi from Rolling Stone writes, absolutely. Look, almost every pundit failed to see what was happening during the presidential election. No one thought that this guy could win. It was almost a 100% consensus in the industry. Nobody even accepted it as an idea that he could possibly win. And a lot of that had to do with this insulary media. What's your response?
Well, that in itself is a form of propaganda, right? If you look at the strategic document for Media Matters for America, which is the most powerful propaganda organization in this country, and they describe themselves as a propaganda organization. That's what they do. They pretend that they're about good journalism, but there's no propaganda organization that's looking for good journalism. They're pushing their agenda. And in it, one of their main pillars of their strategy is to make sure that Donald Trump is seen as the most unpopular president in history. That he is seen, they push all this idea of collusion and an endless stream of breaking news stories about that suggest corruption and dishonesty, etc., etc. So what they found is fertile ground, right, for these talking points and propaganda points to grow. It doesn't just happen because journalists are upset. They're being manipulated, they're being deceived, some of them are willing, some of them are political operatives themselves. And what I think is a mistake to look at this as just human failing. Oh, it just happened because people were upset because this man is so terrible. Well, that in itself is a propaganda talking point for the progressive political movement and Media Matters for America. Read their documents and listen to their words, and you'll see it. It's not me making it up. It comes from them. And what I'm more concerned about is what is the level of organization and funding behind this, and the level of collusion between journalists and propaganda groups, that these narratives have been so powerfully enforced. You know, people say, oh, well, Donald Trump's style is so terrible, and perhaps his style is terrible. But my question is, well, what if you only heard about his terrible style 5% of the time instead of 95% of the time? And 90% of the time you were having discussions about the policies in Venezuela or in Afghanistan or in Syria or many other important areas of policy of this administration that are not part of the conversation in the media because they're not part of the political narratives. Why? Right. Because another narrative is that this is what the documents say, that they will resist the normalization of Donald Trump by anyone in the media, and they will punish those responsible. Look at the words of that. How are you going to punish people? What is the power that you have that you're able to punish people? Who's funding this? And who are these people? So maybe the Vox News journalist, Matt Taibbi, all of these people, let's see some journalism now about how this really happened. Who are these propagandists? Who's driving them? Who's paying for them? You know, the Clinton campaign paid for the Fusion GPS through the document that smeared Donald Trump. And actually, you had Americans go to Russia and meet with FSB agents. These are people working for Vladimir Putin. And they made this document, and on the basis of that, they violated the rights of American citizens, the right to privacy. They spied on American citizens, actually, during a presidential campaign. And not just people on the right. What about Bernie Sanders? The Bernie Sanders campaign, I know, confirmed to other journalists that I know that they knew they were spied upon, but they've been silent about it. Why? Why are you silent about that? If you really believe in this country and you believe in protecting the institutions of democracy, why are you silent about those abuses and the laws that have been broken?
Well, there you heard it. Question: where was Laura-Logan in 2016? I don't remember any comments from her back then. Do you? Journalists do basic research? Really? Did they do basic research on Obama? I don't think so. Now she's attacking the media, and now she's attacking Media Matters as well. And you heard in that piece how concerned she was about journalists colluding to push a narrative. Really? Can we honestly take seriously someone who was at the heart of the propaganda campaign to unseat a sitting president? I have said this before, and I know this is right. This was and still is an ongoing campaign of hate-filled bigotry against a straightforward, blunt-speaking American. This is my opinion and my view. If he was a British Prime Minister, he would be considered as uncouth, uneducated to their standards, not what we call Oxbridge. That's what this is about. How dare the American citizens elect someone without a plum in their mouths, that doesn't have a pedigree, or use 400 words to describe something where 10 will do. Quite honestly, they don't like the common man. They just don't like the common man. I thought there wasn't supposed to be any class in America. Well, there isn't. Not as we traditionally know it. But there is a structure. We know it is basically university-driven, usually lawyer-based, and parsed through with democratic thinking. That's the structure, and that's the class. And woe betide anyone who tries to change it. Witness Donald Trump. The far left and the left will say anything and do anything to win. Lie, cheat, steal, and much, much worse. They must win. They must have control of you. So when I hear this person having seen the light, please forgive me for being skeptical. I personally don't believe her. And that's my comment. You can find more at aradio.wordpress.com, where you can find links to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Gab, and email. We're also on Spotify. Just go to the podcast section and type Canadian Politics with a twist, and you'll find us. We are continuing to reach out to you, so please pass on these links. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. You can listen to all our morning moments at Spreaker.com under A Radio. That's EHRADIO, A Radio, and click on the like button. And you can hear a review of our morning moments on WHBJ-DB, News, Talk, Radio on Spreaker.com. Join us and many others. And you can find all our podcasts and morning moments at aradio.wordpress.com. Click on the Morning Moments tab.